Joining me now, Jasmine George, lawyer and activist, and Jayna Kothari, senior advocate, Supreme Court, if only to explain what this judgment means. Why is it being called historic? Jasmine George, to you first. Why is it being called historic? What is it about this judgment, do you think, that puts us several steps ahead of America that's just reversed Roe versus Wade?
Thank you for the question. I always thought India was way ahead in terms of abortion law. Our law was way ahead in terms of US. But what really happened today was, the Supreme Court went a little bit ahead. They did the expansive reading of the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, and that's where it really matters. They took the intention of the law, that this was to serve people. It was actually to, ensure that more and more people have access to abortion services, and that's fascinating. That, the very fact that they were willing to, define the criteria of women who can access, and they were willing to even, distinction the fact that, why there is a distinction between before and after 20 weeks. It was a simple test of equality. So it's fascinating that judges are willing to push the boundaries, judges are willing to be creative. And they themselves said that, this is something that only Parliament can do. But coming from the Supreme Court, it has a persuasive value. So we really are grateful for judges to taking for this step ahead. And this is in a country like ours where we still, in spite of having a law like this after 50 years, women are still not sure. It gives single women a lot of power to negotiate now.
Let me take that last point to Jayna Kothari, that Indian women, will they feel empowered because of this court verdict, given certain social realities that exist on the ground? The court is saying whether you're an unmarried woman or a married woman, or indeed a woman who claims marital rape, you can avail of these abortion laws. But on the ground, do you think that actually can translate into empowerment?
Thanks, Rajdeep. Yes, I think, if the judgment is implemented, it will definitely amount to a very, very empowering position for women who want to terminate their pregnancies. And till now, the judgment actually points out how single women, unmarried women, young women, adolescent girls are asked 100 questions by medical practitioners before getting their pregnancies terminated. And this judgment kind of sets all these kind of, situations as being completely illegal, and says that, single or unmarried women, based irrespective of their marital status, can seek termination of pregnancies. It, in fact, validates marital rape. It validates the presence of sexual violence, even in marital relationships, which, legally is still not considered as rape or violence. And in the context of abortions, it recognizes that. So I think, one is empowering women in the situation of actually being able to get an abortion without all these hurdles. But I think it also has strengthened the movement for women's rights and recognition of all these forms of violence that women face.
The reason I asked you this, because there's been a stigma, in a way, associated that women often face because of societal conditions with going in for an abortion. Particularly an unmarried woman would perhaps struggle. So, Jayna, you're telling me that will change, you think?
The change may be slow, perhaps. We'll have to see how this, is, taken on the ground. But, it has to start somewhere. We saw with Section 377 that change did happen on the ground. There was slow but steady change that people started recognizing the validity of same-sex relationships, at least on the ground. And so I think even in this, this will in fact give a message to medical practitioners that, women cannot be denied abortion if they're single or unmarried. You cannot ask questions about whether they're married or who's giving consent, if they're minor girls. So I think it will trickle down to the medical practitioners, but we have to ensure that it does, that this judgment is given wide publicity, it is shared with the medical fraternity so that they ensure that they implement it. And I think if it is implemented, it will definitely result in a better protection of women's rights.
Jasmine, final word. I come back to where I start. We are putting up graphics and showing, what the United States did just a few months ago. And it feels good in a way to see our courts well ahead of the US. I reiterate that. Do you believe that this should also now apply to more gender sensitization across laws in this country, across courts in this country? Even lower courts need to take the cue from what the Supreme Court has done.
I think so. I mean, I really believe if a person took abortion case to a high court, and there are a lot of cases like this, women are ready. They are demanding their rights. So it's time, be it district courts, high courts, start sensitizing, getting trained on different aspects of law, and even learning some of these terminations, because we understand biases do come in. And I agree with Jayna when she mentioned about doctors, because they are finally the service providers. So if they need to come on board, and we really need to pass circulars and notify the doctors on ground that things are changing, and they are willing to change, just that they need to be informed.
Okay, times are changing, and it's good to know that the Indian Supreme Court in a way is setting the trend. Thank you both very much for joining me.